Good afternoon. Welcome to Bearded Butchers broadcast.
We're
on number five. We're on number five. September the 9th. Beautiful day here in Northeast Ohio. And we're coming to you live this week. We weren't sure. I know we left off the show last week talking about whether or not we would come back live again just a week later. We weren't quite sure. However, we had some developments in last week's broadcast that were quite interesting. So I want to dive into those. First and foremost, I want to address right off the top, I want to read some comments. So at about an hour into the show, I read a comment saying you should collab with Chud's Barbecue. And
which we had seen previously quite a few times.
I made a very, what I would consider ignorant or arrogant comment by saying, we can look into that. We typically don't collab with channels that have smaller platforms than ours, with some exceptions and blah, 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 blah. We have plenty of subscribers, blah, blah, blah. Looking back, way off color, so I apologize to the audience, certainly to Chud's audience, for making a comment like that. We got beat up, as we should have. Little cold water, little slap in the face. I won't make too many excuses other than it really has to do with time. And with the whole subscriber thing, I just meant like, usually you do those to try to gain a lot of subscribers. And of course we want, so, I mean, anyway, I'll just stop talking now other than say poor taste, arrogant, shouldn't have made the comment. We're thankful for every single one of the both channels, however we can collaborate. That being said, I tell you what, I won't even read the comments other than we got beat up pretty good.
We spent the last week with our tail tucked between our legs, so we thought it was only right to come on here a week later and let's air the dirty laundry. We're going to interact with the audience through this live. You can give us your thoughts. Like Scott said, it certainly was out of place, and we're here to apologize.
So having that behind us, we also want to bring on today's special guest, which is Brad Robinson from Chud's Barbecue.
Hey,
Brad,
there's
great
the
to
man
see
himself.
you on this Friday morning for you, afternoon for us. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for having me. Good morning to you as well.
Yes, and I want to personally apologize to you for the comment related to Chud's Barbecue. No ill will was ever intended. Stunned.
It wasn't even like, the guy doesn't have a good beard. I mean, it was none of that. It was just like,
it could have been way worse.
yeah.
Very ignorant and very arrogant, so I apologize.
Well, appreciate that. But like we were saying in the DMs, I completely understand where you guys are coming from. I'm sure at your level that you're getting, suggestions of people to collab with and people reaching out all the time. I mean, I know I do, and you just really can't. You can't do them all. And to your point again, like as much fun as we have making content, it is a business at the end of the day. And as someone who also runs a side business, just like you guys, that's not just a YouTube channel. Time is really valuable. So to choose wisely and be as beneficial as possible is completely understandable.
Well spoken. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, since the incident, if we'll call it that, which we're going to put behind us from this moment on.
This is all about building This is all about
Chudgate is behind us.
This is all about building a relationship and moving forward. It's not about the past; it's about the future.
Absolutely.
Yep. So looking out the over the hood, what's really interesting, and I think something that we can learn a lot from you is, our barbecue is in need of elevation. We admittedly are not great at barbecue.
Well, I would say that Jeremy is way better at barbecue than
that's
either
one of the
of
big
us.
reasons why we introduced Jeremy.
Right. And Josh as well.
Yes.
However, we're butchers, not barbecuers.
Yeah.
We'll openly admit that.
So I have a question, and not to put you on the spot, but this is kind of like the chicken or the egg. So do you think that butchers need barbecuers, or barbecuers need butchers, or is it just a tandem relationship?
Well, I think our two channels are the perfect example of both extremes, right? Because I'm a barbecue guy 1st and a butcher 2nd. You know, I've broken down a couple of pigs on the channel. You know, I've broken down maybe one side of beef in my life, and I'm terrible at it. But because I know how to cook it, it works out well.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you guys could pull out some beautiful steaks, but you know, if you don't have the right equipment or whatever, then it could be it could be an issue. So I think it's a symbiotic relationship, obviously, because not everyone is willing to learn how to butcher their own meat. So having butchers is definitely necessary, and especially ones that know what they're doing, because you know, up in your neck of the woods, I'm sure. I mean, I know when I go home to New Hampshire, finding just a Packer brisket is almost impossible.
Yep.
So having butchers with barbecue knowledge is something that I think is really important right now, especially in places outside of Texas. Because down here, I can go to the grocery store a mile from my house and pick through a bin of prime briskets, you know, and I get comments all the time from people just saying how that is not a thing where they live. And I think the butcher is very well important.
Yeah. And so I want to speak a little bit to that. So you mentioned New Hampshire. So you're a transplant from northeastern states to Texas. And I know at least for us growing up, so barbecuing was burgers and hot dogs on a grill of some sort. And if it was a charcoal grill, that was a real treat. Typically, it's a propane grill. And yeah, literally, burgers and hot dogs is considered firing up the barbecue in a lot of your northern states. So when you moved to Texas, I'm curious if, how long did it take you to, I guess, immerse yourself in the culture? And then I want to talk about your hand-built smokers, because that's definitely taken to the next level. But when you moved from the northern states of Texas, were you shocked by the culture? Did you immediately begin to embrace it? Like, how long did it take for you to learn that, like, many of the things that you mentioned about not having the cuts of beef, like, how long was that learning curve, or that period of time? Before
you get started, Brad, Scott and I have never experienced the Texas barbecue culture. So this is all brand new to us. So take it away.
Yeah, well, you kind of nailed it right there with the northeastern style of barbecue. For me, growing up, a barbecue was either a barbecue, like a Weber kettle, like a barbecue pit, like a barbecue grill,
like squirt the lighter fluid on it, light the briquettes,
exactly,
like that kind of barbecue.
Or it was a barbecue, like a local, go down to the town green, and some guys maybe cooking a pig if you're lucky.
Yep.
But then and yeah, again, it was like barbecue was just grilling outside a few months of the year where you're not covered in snow, just burgers and hot dogs. And it just, I don't know, didn't really excite me all that much. So when I moved down to Austin, I came down for an audio career. And then just within the first day or two, when you're telling people you're moving to Texas, everyone's always like, you're going to try that Texas brisket. And I remember saying, I've never heard of brisket. Like, what is brisket? Are you saying biscuit? So I Googled it. And I just see this big black chunk of meat, and I'm like, no, that's not for me. I like my steaks medium rare. So I just thought nothing of it. And then I stumbled upon a local barbecue joint that is very good to this day. And I had that first bite, and it was just kind of mind-blowing that, the texture, the flavor, the smoke, the tenderness of a cut that I'd never even heard of. And it was just super cool, because I was talking to the pitmaster, and he was showing me his offset smoker, which is just like this one. It's just made out of an old propane tank, and he's throwing wood in there. It's just salt and pepper on the meat. And I'm just like, it's just salt and pepper on that locomotive looking contraption, and you're putting out this. I got to know more. So that's kind of what got me into it. And I really think that's what drives the passion for me for Texas style barbecue as opposed to any other style, is just the simplicity of it, and just kind of the roots of it. It's just, you take a piece of beef that is typically just ground up or thrown away. Back in the day, it's like no one is buying briskets, and then you throw it on an old propane tank that someone that doesn't hold pressure anymore. So someone's just going to throw it into a landfill or something. And then with the tree that fell down, you make something that's just like mind-blowingly good.
Sure.
So that's
awesome.
That's
Sounds
kind of
like
what,
it's just it was born out of certain circumstances like the tank and the tree. To the point about the tree, what type of wood is the accepted Texas? Is it mesquite? Is it post oak? What are the woods that are go-to for smoking in Texas?
just like all barbecue, it's kind of all about what's regional to you. If you're in the Carolinas, you're going to get a lot of hickory. And then in Texas, it's such a big state that there's different regions of Texas. So
yeah.
if you're, in East Texas, you're going to have some more hickory, some mesquite. South Texas is pretty much all mesquite. But where I'm at in Central Texas, it's all about post oak, which is the wood of smoke that's really the wood of choice that's really kind of birthed the whole barbecue boom that's been happening in the last few years, because it's mild, it's smoky, it's not too intense like mesquite, and it's just readily available.
So Chud's Barbecue in Texas, I know when we first heard your name, we were like, oh shoot, the guy's in Texas, he's going to be good at barbecue. Do you feel, or I guess I should say, what kind of impact do you think that's had on your brand, growing your channel, growing your social media outlets, selling your smokers, the fact that you live in Texas versus New Hampshire? Because I'm curious, we're in Ohio. We're never going to have Texas barbecue in Ohio. Do you think that's a disadvantage for our brand just because of the demographic of where we're located, based on your experience?
Yeah, I think for me, being in Texas, especially with my history of working in the local barbecue joints, definitely helped out, because I'm coming from a place of experience as opposed to just like some guy in his backyard. So I think that really helped. But also, like you said, I'm in a market that's just saturated with barbecue lovers. I have this thing smoking, 4 days of the week at least, and my neighbors all love it. But everyone I've talked to that's out of the state, in other, if up north or out west or whatever, that is firing up a smoker, like those people aren't used to that. They get noise, or they get complaints from all their neighbors. Because it's not ingrained.
HSA or whatever is like, oh my gosh, he's smoking again.
Right. Yeah, like if you see a big pile of smoke in New Hampshire, for example, I'd think someone's house is on fire, and I'd get nervous and I'd call the cops or something. But down here, I'm just like, I'm surrounded by houses barreling smoke, and they always pop over like, "What you cooking today?"
So obviously you're known as Brad Robinson, Chud's Barbecue, the barbecue guy. Are you as well accepted being, dare I say, a Yankee in Texas now? Have the Texans accepted you as one of your own, or are you still a guy from up north that's figuring out barbecue, or can they just not deny it because of the platform growing and the taste of the food?
Yeah, I mean, luckily Texans are very nice people. The whole Southern hospitality is something that was very, very nice when I first moved here. So I was accepted pretty quickly. And also, I think the real reason is it's kind of undeniable. It's like I told the guy once, I'm more Texan than you. I built my own smoker.
That's right.
I'm butchering my own meat.
Yep.
Making my own rubs. What else do I need to do?
Right. Yeah. I checked all the boxes. What's your take on competition? Do you do competitions?
No, I'm not really a fan of the competition world. For me, it's just defeats the purpose. I mean, like I was saying a minute ago, the reason I love the Central Texas style of barbecue is because of its simplicity and just making something incredible with, minimal tools and minimal effort. So when you get into the competition world with injections and MSG and all these different glazes, and it's not about creating something edible, it's about creating one bite that's just, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me. Because everyone's kind of just layering things, layering these intense flavors. Yeah,
sounds like authenticity is high up on your list. So
I experienced that, Brad. I did a butchering competition out in California for the History Channel a few years ago. It was called The Butcher on the History Channel. And I kind of ran into the same thing, because it's like, we're from the Midwestern states. We have certain cuts. But then when you get on the West and the East Coast, they have cuts with, fancy names and just kind of like that extra glaze like you're talking about. So I feel like the same thing goes on with butchering competitions as well. Not a big fan.
So I want to talk about your smoker, your hand-built smoker that's behind you. That's the very first smoker that you ever built?
Yeah. So
does that thing have a stack off of a Peterbilt semi?
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing is way overbuilt. Again, it's the first one I ever built. So I went.
The very little experience that we do have with offset smokers or reverse flow or any kind of smoker is that if you can't move air through it, you can struggle with your fire. So seeing a nice big stack is great because that design has to, I'm sure, work well for you because
not only is it efficient, it has a purpose, but it looks cool as heck too.
I want to talk a little bit about your business. So you obviously have the channel, Chud's Barbecue, and you build smokers. Are those essentially your full-time jobs?
Yeah. So I was working in the local barbecue scene at barbecue joints for the last 5 years or so. And then it kind of got to the point where I worked at one place until it went under and then immediately helped open another place. And it's really hard work being a full-time pitmaster. You're in 110-degree heat standing next to a fire, but breaking down briskets and ribs all day long. It's like the 17-hour days for very low pay got old.
Sounds like the butcher industry. So we share a lot of that there. Couple of your, so to speak, innovations. I know you have the V-shaped firebox. Can you just tell us a little bit what that's about?
Yeah, so a lot of my designs are because of my limitations as a untrained welder and the fact that I'm just working out of my garage with an angle grinder and a small welder. So working with like round tubes and getting things rolled was really not an option. So the V-shaped firebox was a way to mimic a round firebox because, like you're mentioning, these cookers are all about convection and airflow. And to get the wood burning properly, you really want to have it elevated slightly above the coal bed so you can get airflow underneath and it's not just smoldering, giving you a bunch of thick smoke. So the V was a way that I could add some insulation underneath and strengthen the cook chamber, the firebox, while still getting that elevation. And the real reason I wanted to do that over the traditional round one, like I've got on this pit over here, was because that flat surface that a square firebox creates allows me to put a little charcoal grill on top of the firebox, which makes it more than just an offset smoker. It's a little more multifunctional and, just utilizing every inch of the giant footprint that this thing takes up, I think is pretty important for someone with a relatively small backyard.
I think it's great. Do you soak wood or never soak wood?
Nope.
Dirty smoke, right?
Yeah. Again, it depends on your cooker. If you're on a really small, either way, I don't ever soak the wood because that's just kind of making the wood do something it doesn't want to do, and that's just going to create different gases and it's going to steam a lot, and it's also going to make it really hard for maintaining even temperatures because it's going to be smoldering and steaming, and then all of a sudden it's going to dry out and just ignite. So it's just really difficult to maintain, and that's kind of what the name of the game is for long, low, and slow cooks.
So I'm sure, as you know, or many of the audience knows, we, and I'll just give you a quick background. When we were looking for what we considered the best grill to sell at our butcher shop.
I was actually going to just bring this up, and I was going to put Brad on the spot.
Well, I think you're going to say the same thing I was.
I was going to see if we could get the comment section going again, but not make them mad. So I think I know where you're headed.
I'll just ask the question: What do you think about pellet smokers, Brad?
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Well, pellet smokers are to the smoker world what competition barbecue is to the barbecue world. You know what I mean? It's a very complicated way to try and mimic something that this does very simply. That being said, I'm very understanding to the fact that most people can't afford or have the room or the time necessary to have this 800-pound chunk of steel and a big wood pile and then having to baby it, and there's a pretty steep learning curve with these things. It's not fire management is difficult.
Great answer. Yeah, very good answer. Probably better than I could give.
One thing we won't do is ask you what preferred brand of pellet smoker you might use. We won't do that because that'll get too many people riled up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well,
I have been looking into them though, because I am curious. Because I mean, as a barbecue channel, I want to be as inclusive as possible.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's why for the last couple months I've been doing a Weber kettle series, because I know a lot of people don't have a giant smoker or one of the direct heat pits that I build. So trying to
you have to relate to your audience. We do the same thing
Exactly.
in our butchering content. Right?
Well, right.
Yeah.
And to that end, we got started on the Big Green Egg because for us it was propane grills until, maybe we had a char grill or something like that, a Weber, if you were doing charcoal. And then when we were researching grills, we found that, and this would have been like close to 12 years ago. So Green Egg, being sort of out of Georgia, had kind of crept north. And we found out there was a distributor actually close to us, and we decided to sell the Green Egg grill at our butcher shop. That's what got us started into Green Egg grills. And then about 6 years ago, we started selling pellet grills. I just told Seth, because we did a video last weekend on deer bacon, because like hunting is a really big thing around here, and so we're making bacon out of deer. And we were getting ready to do, it was like a 3-day process. We were getting ready to do the cook portion, and we used a pellet grill, and the bacon turned out great. But I told Seth prior, off air and all that stuff prior to the cooking portion, I was like, really want to get better at like what is considered true smoking or true barbecuing. We had an offset that we sold. In fact, years and years ago, because we do a lot of commercial smoking, which is like one of those one truck ovens that are a butcher shop, and you put it's like a big box. It's a Enviropack Martini 280 is the model, but anyway, it holds 280 pounds of meat. So you load all your hams and bacons, everything, does everything automatically. It heats with a heating element, and then it has hickory wood chips that, because in our world, there's kind of like in the commercial butcher industry, there's liquid smoke, and then there's real wood smoke. And then, so we use real wood smoke and we make all our hams and bacons. But anyway, for this video, we were doing it in the backyard, and I was like, man, I really wish we had like a backyard actual smoker barbecue or whatever. So we are going to pursue getting one from you. Now, I know you are very busy. You've had a backlog of orders. I'm curious, like, as far as your business goes, has it met or exceeded expectations? And like, maybe what's your next step, or are you just trying to get ahead of your current orders and you're always just going to be, Brad that builds smokers out of his garage, or have you thought down the road? I guess how's the business side of things?
Here's something else too, Brad. If you could just tell the audience what you have available for sale on your website and where to find it, what website, that sort of thing. And then we'll link it in the description once this is all over.
Can do. Yeah, my website is just chudsbarbecue.com. There's one website that's the homepage is kind of all the smokers that I build, and it's mostly backyard based. If you consider this backyard, this is a small offset compared to some of the ones you're going to see in here in Texas. But yeah, so I build 2 different sizes of offset. This one is the bigger of the 2, and then I build a slightly smaller one. And then I also build a lot of direct heat cookers, which is kind of think about your whole hog pits in the Carolinas or like old school hill country style barbecue, where the meat is about a foot or 2 above. So it's not quite grilling, but it's also not offset. So the main smoke flavor comes from the fat and the grease and the drippings hitting the coals, and it just gets an amazing flavor. So I make a couple different sizes of that pit as well. And I've got a whole bunch of ideas for things I want to build. I had a pizza oven design for like 3 years now, but I can't get to it because, as you mentioned, there's been a pretty big backlog, which is been stressful to say the least. It happened kind of all at once, where I was building them, to order just by myself, and then I had a couple pits on order, and then it was 5, and then once it went past 110 pits on order, and I'm just one guy in the backyard. I'm just doing my best to calculate how long it's going to take me to get to your pit.
How long does it take for you to build a pit like the one behind you, typically?
Nowadays, I've been getting a lot of. I've learned a lot since then. So I'm getting a lot of things prefabricated or bent, anything that's square. So usually probably about 30 hours probably to build one, start to finish.
Yeah.
But
have you had any heartburn with steel prices or anything like it pretty easy for you to get your stuff, or has that been a contentious?
Yeah, well, that's why I shut down the pit orders. That's why if you go to my website, it's going to immediately pop up and say we're no longer accepting orders until we get caught up. Because the problem was, once I was on a 2-year wait list for people, and then the pandemic hit, and steel prices tripled. So for the last year now, I've been losing money on every pit that I build, because I don't want to go back and tell people, it's like, sorry, the world fell apart. You need to give me more money. It's like, I want to honor the price we agreed on. So that's been pretty painful.
That sounds getting that way. Wow, that's mighty big of you.
Yeah, that says a lot about your character.
Texas-sized heart, Brad.
Yeah, right. Well, that's also why I'm pumping out 3 videos a week, is to try and make up the difference.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I want to talk about the YouTube channel. First, I've got to ask you, what is a chud boat?
The chud boat. It's a method of wrapping a brisket. Most people are wrapping in either completely foil or completely in butcher paper, but the foil boat method is something I learned at a barbecue joint here in town with my buddy Evan Leroy. He's kind of the pioneer creator of it. And basically, it's when you just crinkle the foil around the bottom and the sides, but you leave the top exposed. And it's kind of the best of both worlds in that the foil will collect all the juices and kind of confit or braise the underside of the brisket, which is the toughest part, which will speed up the cook and make sure it's nice and tender and juicy. But also the top of the brisket, the fat cap, will stay exposed, so that'll continue to render. You get a really nice, heavy, smoky bark on there. And it's just a different way about going about it.
Wow.
And it's kind of taken off ever since I started doing it on the internet.
That's
too.
fantastic.
First we've heard about it.
So when this is a 2-part question, when did you start your channel? And how long did your channel sort of sit there before it started to get traction?
I started the channel in April of 2020, which was not because of the pandemic. I'll never know if that helped or hurt my situation. But like I was alluding to earlier, I was working in the barbecue scene and I was getting sick of the long hours and the low pay. So I needed something else to do. And I wanted to either start teaching backyard classes or start selling my smokers, but the problem was nobody knew who I was. So I figured if I started a YouTube channel, could show off my cooking skills and knowledge and thought process on that could build an audience that I could then sell pits to and sell merch and rubs and all that. So so I launched my channel in 2020, and there's never really been a big jump moment. Like, it's never just one day I woke up and had an extra 300,000 subscribers or something. Like, all my graphs and the analytics are just straight lines. Like every week I get a couple more, like the amount of subscribers goes up, the revenue goes up, everything is just very steady.
And it's a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, to build an audience on YouTube and create content that's watchable, it's a lot of work. A lot of people don't realize that it's a full-time job. And for anybody, and not to interrupt here for a second, but for any of our audience that wants to go check it out, Chud's Barbecue right here on YouTube, go check him out and make sure you subscribe. I've been going through his videos the last week, and they're fantastic. So.
Yeah, and so much like the butchering world, we want to expose more people to, the butchering techniques, things that we've learned. It sounds like you're doing the same thing with barbecue. Do you have any top tier tips that relate to barbecue?
I think it's kind of like what I've been saying this whole time. Just keep it simple. A lot of people like to overcomplicate things, and I know it's tough. It took me a long time to really learn that, because if you're cooking something like a pork butt or a brisket, that's going to take hours and hours. You're going to be wanting to poking it, prodding it, adding different things to it. But really, it's just about kind of letting it do its thing, focus on the fire, and, just really, start basics. Start with just, salt and pepper, then start moving up to more complex rubs. And, also, I'm big into every aspect of barbecue, right? It's like from building the pit to getting that perfectly trimmed brisket, and then, the perfect burning fire and all that good stuff. And it's really kind of more of a journey than the destination situation. So I think that's also where offsets come in more than pellet cookers. You know, a lot of people see this and like, do you really need that just for making dinner? It's like, this is more of a craft than a means to lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to piggyback off. Go ahead, Seth.
As a successful barbecuer, Brad, how much of thought goes into selecting the pieces of meat that you choose to barbecue, the quality of the animal? Because I know the audience may not understand, how much the quality of the piece that you select actually has to do with the end result. Could you go into a little bit of detail on how you choose your items and stuff that you want to smoke?
Yeah, I mean, one of my common lines in my videos is about, you always want to get the best piece of meat that you can afford, because if you get, a really like a trash brisket from a commodity animal, then you're just in the turd polishing business. If you start out with crap, you're gonna just I think that's probably how the competition scene got born. Because if you have this like select commodity brisket, you're gonna have to be injecting it and throwing all this stuff on it to try and make it juicy. But also, as far as like meat quality is concerned, the food truck that I worked at for the last 5 years, and I still work with them to this day, is very adamant about local sourcing, which I think is very important, because especially there's a couple barbecue joints in town that are pushing out like 200 briskets in a day. You know what I mean? Which is an absurd amount of cattle, and just trying to get away from the commodity stuff and really focus on just quality versus quantity. It's something that's important.
Yeah, if you talk about 200 briskets, you're talking about 100 cattle, 2 briskets per beef. So if you're not buying those on the commodity market, that can be a big challenge. Just sourcing that amount of briskets. You're 100% right.
We talked a lot about brisket, and I have a question pertaining particularly to brisket, and then I want to branch off and ask you about other cuts of meat. But on brisket, you mentioned hours and hours, and you mentioned a journey. I think good barbecue takes time. For you, typically, how much time are you setting aside to do a brisket and do it right?
For me, it's start to finish. It's probably about a 24-hour process.
Wow. So I'll just interrupt you real quick. Around here, most people would say you can get it done in 12 hours. That would be pretty common. 12, maybe 14 hours if it's a big one. So go ahead. 24 hours. What's that process look like for Brad?
Yeah, I mean, it starts out with trimming it. I think a good trim is maybe the most important part, because there's 2 different muscles. There's a big fat cap. There's a lot of gnarly bits on a brisket that aren't going to cook up well. So getting a really nice trim that's also aerodynamic, because it's a convective cooker, and just trying to maximize every quality slice you're going to get at the end is just very important. And, not having too much fat and all that. And then the cook itself is probably about 10, 12 hours. And then what we do in the restaurants down here is we'll hold them overnight in like a food warmer, and that's usually around 150, 160 degrees, and it will just sit there, and that's like the real low and slow part, where all the collagen can kind of break down and convert into gelatin. If it's undercooked, it'll continue to carry over. If it's overcooked, it'll rest down nicely, and that's what really gives you the quality that you're going to see coming out of Austin or Central Texas in general. Not entirely necessary to do that, but that's what I like to do.
Well, that's awesome. Perfect. So if you're having brisket, you're having it tomorrow night, not tonight. Is basically how it works in Texas.
Yeah.
All right. So what about other? We've mentioned beef a lot, and you've mentioned breaking down pigs. But I'm curious, like maybe what's your top 3 barbecue items? Is brisket number 1?
I do love a good brisket, but it's just kind of. I've been hammering on it for so long now that it's definitely. I don't miss cooking them every day. I'll tell you that much. But
that's why you're going to build a pizza oven.
yeah. I think people can tell that I'm starting to get bored, because I've been doing a lot of baking and making bread on my channel lately for buns and a lot of sausage making. But top 3, honestly, a well-made sausage. I make a lot of sausage on the channel. That's a very fun hobby of mine. Getting that nice juicy smoky snap is fun. I also love cooking pork ribs. It's just such a versatile cut. It can be sweet, it can be spicy, it can be savory. There's so many different ways to cook them, whether you're slicing them individually or you're making rib tips or something like that. And then, you really can't go wrong with a good pork belly. I just did a video last week on some crispy skin pork belly that kind of rocked my world a little bit. I need to find some more.
That sounds awesome. So that's you're buying pork belly with a skin on it, and you're cooking it up that way. Because like for us, we remove the hide off all of our pigs because we skin them by hand, so we don't scald them. So that if you were to come into our shop and ask for a skin on pork belly, we couldn't even get it for you since that's removed.
Yeah,
on the
I can't find
floor.
it anywhere. Yeah, I can't find it anywhere around here either. I have to find it online somewhere.
Yeah,
But,
that's why. It's because they're skinning them. I think we should take a minute and ask the audience, do you have anything for Brad from Chud's Barbecue? If you do, drop it in the comment. We'll try to grab it. So now's your chance to ask Brad something about Texas-style barbecue.
Yeah, I'll take a look at those. Brad, you mentioned salt and pepper. I'm curious, those your go-to. I know you have your own rub. It's pepper forward, I think you've mentioned. Is pepper a big thing in Texas?
yeah, definitely. If you ever look at any piece of barbecue coming out of Texas, it's got that really thick bark on it. And I think that's kind of the differentiating factor of any other style of barbecue is having that thick pepper bark on there. And a lot of people see it and they think it's burnt, which it's not. And some people see the amount of pepper I use and they think that it's going to be like super spicy or something like that. But, you know, you got to remember, especially on like a brisket or a pork butt or something like that, it's going to be cooking for 12 hours. So the spicy nuances of black pepper are not going to survive that. And you just get that really nice roasty, smoky flavor on there.
So even with like our rubs, like our original, it's pretty, you know, it's a glorified sea salt, some extra seasonings and et cetera and stuff in it. But could you just pretty much season your brisket with our regular rub and then just add pepper on top of it and sort of kind of imitate that Texas style, or is it just salt and pepper?
Yeah, no, I think that would work really well. The only difference between a lot of rubs, especially your guys, are very fine.
Yeah.
So adding a coarse pepper to that, I think would work fantastically. And that's a thing that's been ever since like the barbecue boom of the last 10 years has really happened. It's the whole salt and pepper myth is kind of falling apart because a lot of people are throwing seasoned salts in there or making more complex rubs, you know, throwing a little bit of sugar in the mix. It's mostly like garlic and savory spices.
I'm really glad you said that because I still want to sell our rubs. So I'm trying to get people to buy our rubs and not just salt and pepper. So
yeah, I mean, that's why I was pivoting
great.
too, because I also sell a rub.
Yes.
That's not just salt and pepper.
We're thinking alike.
Brad,
Yeah.
I think I hope, and I've got to be careful with reading comments live on the air and making, you know, my own comment.
Let's get them all stirred up because now we got Brad on
I don't
here,
know
so.
if these are some of your own people, but somebody says Brad uses number 3 pine when he cooks. Some said he uses old Christmas trees. Question:
have an old Christmas tree.
Does Brad like pineapple in his sausage? Those may be part of your inner circle, but I did find one here that says, any insight on New England clam bake, but barbecue style? So that's interesting. Have you brought any of your New England tradition to Texas or tried anything unusual in Texas?
I thought about like a chowder or a clam bake or something like that, but that's kind of the thing is my neck of the woods is very seafood heavy, you know, lobsters and that kind of stuff. And it's just not best suited for smoking. You know,
Sure.
what I mean? A lot of those dishes. That's more of either a hot and fast grill, which I suppose I do, but you know, most of that stuff is best either like pan seared or deep fried, or you know, like lobster, you're just gonna steam it.
Right.
So
What about chili? Do you do chili in Texas?
yeah, chili is a big deal down here. I learned that the hard way. There's a funny video that Eater did with me and Evan at the barbecue joint I worked at, where Evan has this big explosion about how there's no beans in the chili in Texas. It's chili con carne. Yeah, it's just they're very passionate about that around here. But me growing up in the Northeast, like beans and chili, like that's what
you throw
the
kitchen,
you know?
kitchen towel in there to add some more sustenance so you can make it through the winter.
You threw last
like
night's hamburgers in there if you needed to.
Yeah, exactly. It's tomatoes, it's beans, but the way I explain it to people is there's two different types of chili, right? There's your stew, like you eat it with a spoon with a little sour cream and cheese on top or whatever. And then there's like the condiment chili, like something you put on a chili dog or a chili cheeseburgers. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of chili they make down here that you don't want to have beans in.
Sure.
But I'm not going to grab a bowl of that stuff and just go to town. So
it's just to top something.
Sounds like Texas wins on the brisket, but not the chili.
Yeah.
What's your choice of knife? Looking to buy one all-around good barbecue knife.
This is a comment somebody
Yeah.
asked.
Gotcha. I use 3 main knives on my channel. There's the 6.5-inch Victorinox boning knife. That's the one I use 90% of the time.
We're all about
Then-
that.
Yep, our guy.
Yeah. Then a 12-inch serrated knife. That's the brisket knife. That's the barbecue knife for slicing things. And then just a classic chef's knife for, pretty much anything else. But
Have you
get yourself a boning knife is the way to go.
Amen. Have you seen Meet Your Maker's new knife set? They have a kitchen knife set.
Yeah.
It's pretty. We enjoy it.
It's nice.
Some of their butchering knives. I mean, we've used them on the slaughter floor. We took one out to New Mexico. We skinned an elk, quartered an elk with it. So another great choice is Meet Your Maker. They're pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I like their handle they have on the butcher line, the rubberized handle, because that's something that I tell people. I mean, it's probably something I picked up because I was breaking down pigs and briskets every day. But I've bought expensive boning knives before, like the Shuns or the Wustas, but like I need to have that rubberized handle.
Yeah.
Because there's so much like moisture involved. I don't want to be slipping on it.
Yep. And you'll get fatigue.
It's like a good pair of work boots.
Brad,
It's a must-have.
We need some wild game videos. Neil Eubank says that. What I'm curious, is wild game a thing in Texas? Like around here, like that's a big part of our content is mostly white-tailed deer. But in Texas, is there wild game that?
Well, whitetails are huge in Texas.
Yeah,
But
a lot of deer.
do you do anything with wild game, Brad?
I've been trying to for the last 3 years go out and get myself a deer. There's a lot of feral hogs around here too, and I mean just the other day I went dove hunting on opening day. But that's something that I really want to get into and I really want to pursue, especially because I know how to break down a deer, so might as well do that. Throw it on the smoker, but I just can't seem to find the time to really get out there or find someone with land, someone that can kind of walk me through it. But it's definitely on the to-do list.
There's that time thing. Maybe that's our collab, Brad. Maybe we come to Texas and we go on a hunt with you, and then we
That'd be
butcher
awesome.
some wild game and we cook it up.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So if anybody in Texas knows where we can come shoot some big whitetails or some wild hogs, let us know.
You're about to get a lot of DMs every time I say that on a live chat.
That's fantastic.
The Black Rifle guys invited us down to do some hunting. Maybe we'll get a hold of them.
There you go.
Awesome.
I got to ask you, the snake in the boot. What's that?
There it is again.
Yeah,
Somebody did
I
it.
didn't know if people were trying to stomp us with their boot like we were snakes after last week, or if that's got some hidden message, or if you can even say.
The snake in the boot is just a gag that I throw into every video. It's kind of a little Easter egg for all the viewers. And it's just basically I throw on a giant red foam cowboy hat, and somewhere in the video I'm going to be in the background saying that there's a snake in my boot. It was a one-time joke that just kind of got out of control, and now people go through any of my recent videos. There's going to be 7 comments being like, "Where was the snake in my boot?"
Right.
Sorry, I forgot.
We totally thought that was a comment about us.
Yeah,
they were going to smash us with their boot because we were snakes.
Like in Texas, you stomp the snakes.
Yeah.
Somebody, this is a general question, I guess. Somebody says, have you ever cooked a picanha? I have an olive A5 Wagyu picanha in my freezer, and I really don't want to mess it up. So we have cut and cooked picanha on our channel. I assume you've cooked picanha as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do love a good picanha. I've got a bunch of them in my freezer. But, man, if you have a Wagyu or the olive Wagyu, that's the most expensive thing.
Do you have a video?
That's crazy.
Do you have a video on it, Brad, on your channel?
Not a Wagyu one, but yeah, I've got a couple picanha videos.
I would recommend that person that commented go check out your video on how you cooked them.
Yeah, I did it 2 ways. One is a whole roast that you got then just sliced kind of like a prime rib. The other one I cut into individual steaks and grilled it off. I'd suggest the individual steaks.
With the grain? You cut it with the grain initially, and then did you skewer them or? Yeah.
I didn't skewer them. Yeah, I cut them into steaks with the grain and then grilled them off. So when you, for the final cut, you get a little bit of fat cap in every bite.
Which the first time for me doing that in the butchering industry, everything is cut against the grain. So to cut it with the grain didn't make any sense at all. But that's how you do. That's how you do picanha.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me until I was watching Guga do it, and when he explained that the final cut is against the grain, that made a lot more sense.
Yep, absolutely.
Before we go, what's your take on Wagyu?
Big fan, love it.
Do you like
it's
the American or the A5 Kobe? What's your preference there?
I'm a big fan of both. Obviously, speaking about quality of meat, trying to get the best thing possible, Wagyu is top notch. But I really like the crossbreeds, like the Akaushi, like a Wagyu mixed with an Angus, giving you like that really nice upper choice prime. So you got that marbling and you got that fat content, but you still also have that strong beefy flavor to it. There you go. And then A5 and all the super marbled cuts are amazing, but they're crazy expensive. You can only eat a few bites.
Yeah, you can just eat 2 or 3 bites, or else
it'll tear your stomach up in a hurry.
Feel pretty rough.
And also, my audience hates it when I cook Wagyu because they can't afford it, so they don't want to watch me eat it. So that's a bummer.
We celebrated with some fillets once when we hit our 1 million subs on YouTube, and the audience didn't really care for us celebrating with those steaks, but.
Yeah.
There you
go.
go.
You'll have that.
I know how it is.
So one more thing before we go. We talked a little bit about how Texas has supermarkets full of prime briskets, things like that. Brisket, tri-tip. I know these are things that we, in our butcher shop, people were telling us, you're the only place I can find tri-tips. Like, unless I'm in, typically like your coast, like West Coast, East Coast, or in Texas or something like that. Well, we don't have tri-tips. We don't have as many briskets. Anything else that is, I guess, popular in the barbecuing world down there? I mean, do you guys do flank steaks or bavette steaks or anything like that, or is it pretty much just like your big solid whole muscle cuts and then make sausage and do ribs and that type of stuff? Is that kind of your jam?
Yeah, Texas is beef country for sure. So, I mean, you're going to see a bit of everything. People are throwing stuff on the grill all the time. There's also a pretty good Mexican influence. So you're going to see a lot of fajitas and, a lot of tacos, things like that. But yeah, as far as the main barbecue cuts for this style of cooking, it's obviously you got your brisket, you got your beef ribs. The old plate short ribs are really big down here. That big dino rib. Then beef cheeks is growing in popularity, whether it's cooked kind of like a brisket and sliced or shredded up into barbacoa. But yeah, I mean, you're going to see a little bit of everything at barbecue joints or just restaurants in general.
What about mountain oysters? We like to eat it. We like to eat them raw right off the kill floor. Are you in if you ever come up this direction?
I did that to a bison like 3 months ago. I was out there filming, and it's the harvest of a bison here on a local thing. The guy's like, "This is gonna sound weird, but you have to try this raw testicle." I'm like,
not the words I wanted to hear today, but
yeah. But honestly, it was crazy. It had like the texture of like a water chestnut and almost tasted like apples. It was bizarre. So if
you'd fit right in, Brad.
Yeah, well, us bearded butchers, we got to stick together.
That's right. And I want to say before we go, the beard is fantastic. How long have you had the beard?
Man, I was trying to figure that out the other day. I think the last time I was clean shaven was 2009. So it's been a while.
I would like to add you have the right color of beard. So I'd like to go ahead and add that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, there you go. It's 2 against 1, so I concede. All right, Brad, anything else you want to add before we go?
I think so. It's just great talking to you guys. And it's funny enough, this isn't the first time I've connected with other YouTubers through angry comments.
I know. That's funny, too, because it's like, not everybody that, you fight with is your enemy, and not everybody that helps you is your friend. And, like, in this case, it was like, I don't think that we're enemies. I don't want it to be that way. So I'm glad that we connected.
Absolutely.
So that way we can move on. And it definitely sounds like, at minimum, we need one of the Chud barbecue smokers when you get back ahead of your orders.
Let us know when it's convenient for you to order one. We'll do that. We want to respect your time frame, but yeah, we'd love to have one.
And then
absolutely. I'm about to pull the trigger on making a bunch of these bigger ones, so I'll see if I can throw an extra one in, but just don't tell anyone.
All right.
Nobody will know, Brad.
Nobody's listening.
That sounds fantastic, and we got your number, so we can go back and forth, and then we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But we wanted everybody that sounds like you have plenty. People were saying we were fighting above our weight or whatever. So, but anyway, it sounds like you have plenty in the Chud Army that already know this. But Chud's Barbecue, YouTube, congratulations for the platform. Really, when you see a platform grow like yours is, that's great, because you're getting people that have really are into your content, and you just get that nice steady growth pattern, and you'll stay on that trajectory, I believe, for a long time. So.
Well, we know he has dedicated fans because they told us.
Yes, Chud Army, Thank you for throwing some cold water in our face, slapping us around. We needed it.
Yep.
We're better for it. I'm sure our barbecue will improve the more that we can glean from Brad. So again, thank you for accepting our apology and coming on the show. And we're looking forward to where the relationship goes from here.
If you're in Ohio, we would open the invite for you to stop at our shop. And if we're in Austin, Texas, we'll make sure to reach out because we'd love to come see you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to actually meet in person one of these days. But thanks for having me on, and good luck with all the butchery.
Hey, good luck with all the barbecue. Appreciate it, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Have a great day.
Nice talking to
you.
you. Thank you.
You as well. Later, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
So,
what a cool dude.
There you have it.
Yep.
Really enjoyed that chat, and think that that was a good thing for us, and like we said, our barbecue can definitely
I feel like after go ahead.
Get some improvement.
Yes, I feel like after talking to Brad, we could
bury the hatchet.
We could learn a lot.
And we used up quite a bit of time, which is fantastic. That was a really fun chat, and we hope that maybe some of our audience that didn't know about Brad can go over there, and maybe his audience will accept us back. Some of them were saying that they were whatever.
Fifth broadcast today. Brad was the first non-family member that
Correct.
we brought in as a guest. We're going to be adding some more. As we wrap up here, we've got another 8 minutes to go or so. Does any of the audience have any questions for us?
Mom's proud of us, Seth. Tell you what, Seth, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let you take us home on the end of the show today, because I really tripped hard at the end of the show.
Do you want to tell them about the next podcast?
Yes, that's what I was going to do, Spencer. So on all your major podcast platforms like your iTunes, Spotify, etc., after this live podcast ends, we're going to go right into our next podcast that we're recording and we're uploading on your major podcast networks. We're doing a series, and we're doing a series on how to build a brand like ours with something to sell the consumer, the e-commerce side of it, the SEO side of it. Today we're bringing in Phil, who's our COO. He's going to talk about all the back-end analytics and that sort of thing. So you can listen to the first part, which we recorded last week. It's now live on all those podcast platforms, and then today we'll go into the part 2, but it's a series. So I'm going to look at some of these comments. Enjoying the cast. Keep it up, brothers. Bob Hernandez, appreciate that. Good morning from California. So somebody's Dare Dog says great show. You know what? I think Dare Dog is the guy that answers a lot of comments for us on YouTube. Thank you for that, because we do answer as many, if not all, of the comments when we get questions on our YouTube channel. But he's really good at answering comments, and they're always spot on. So thank you for that.
We do try to keep a close eye on those, which after last week's show, we talked about literally sitting there that evening, and I was answering comments to just try to stay ahead of what was happening there. But to that point about comments, we have the comments that come in on YouTube, but right now I'm locked out of TikTok somehow. But the TikTok is like quite a big following. So we get comments there, and then we have
what is
so
there
we
on
have
TikTok?
Facebook.
If you don't follow us on TikTok, maybe go over there and check us out. Right now we have 661,000, just over 661,000 on TikTok. So,
And then so we have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, those 4 on the Bearded Butcher channel. And then we also have White Feather Meats, Facebook, and Instagram.
and of course your
And then we get
Gmail
like
accounts.
a lot of questions through like White Feather Meats website. And we do have help answering those, but there's a lot of incoming comments. Some Seth and I answer ourselves. We used to do them all, but then some of them staff or whatever. But we try to keep up with those. And if the comment gets to us, we answer it personally. Sometimes, but any help that we get from people that are close to the brand certainly does help.
Definitely.
Because there's a lot, and you saw with Brad, like he talked about how busy it gets running the business is. And when I say like running the business is like we're the co-CEOs and we have all kinds of help, but there's no real like above us, like somebody giving us orders or telling us like this is what to do or whatever. So like a lot of the vision, direction, problems,
just you bossing
everything
me,
like
just
that.
you bossing me around, or vice versa.
Seth used to sit on top of me in the yard, and he would put his knees on my like the inside of my elbows, and pin my arms down and pull grass out of the yard and stuff it in my mouth. So I think you
let's
used to
tell 'em
boss
what
me
you used
around.
to do to me.
I didn't do anything. I was just brought
We used
you
to have
like
to take-
cups of water
we
and
used to have
stuff.
to
It's like
take-
nice brother.
Take pictures of you and then show mom and dad when they came home, so that we could prove that you were punching us. Today's been great. I've enjoyed it. So I was thinking about that. This would be a good time to thank our crew, our team, Spencer, Phil, everybody behind the scenes, because Brad is a one-man band.
Yes.
He's taking all the videos. He's setting up a camera on a tripod. He's doing. He told us today he's got to go into editing this afternoon. So, I kind of referred it to like a chef in the kitchen. Like we're kind of the chef, and Spencer's the one that comes in and cleans up after we're done cooking.
I was
Because
gonna say, speaking of,
sorry,
talking to your mic.
sorry. We get done with these podcasts and videos and stuff, and we just poof, we're gone, and then all of a sudden it just starts popping up on all these platforms. So between Phil coordinating, Spencer with all of his content creation, cameras, etc., editing, and then we have Caitlin, who's our marketing, working in the background, doing a lot of our posting on social media. So just a really good team. And then of course the Steiner brothers are over at the store, working the store while we can do this. So.
Absolutely. Couldn't do it without the great people involved. We're going to wrap up today's show. We hope everybody enjoyed it. Again, a big thank you to Brad Robinson, Chud's Barbecue, for coming on the show.
Fishing with Hank says, haha, hating on the ginger beard. He's my brother. He's my little brother, so I've got to hate on the ginger beard.
Be real careful reading those comments this
Ginger-
late in the
ginger-
show. We're almost there, Seth. Let's just try to close it down.
Here, we'll finish with this one. Brad's energy and personality is amazing. Jake Boss, we agree.
I agree.
What a great,
And his-
what a great guy.
And his beard. His beard is amazing, too. Yeah, I think there's certainly, and like we mentioned, the chicken with the egg with the beer, with the butcher versus the barbecuer, who needs who more, and then of course we could bring the farmer into that conversation, because without farmers, butchers would have nothing to butcher. So we all need each other.
Don't forget new YouTube video tomorrow too.
Oh, yes, Phil's
yeah.
reminding us tomorrow we are launching a new YouTube video, which in this case, which we talked about in the show with Brad, A5 Wagyu versus American Wagyu. What are the differences? What are the similarities? What do they taste like compared to each other? We took an A5 ribeye steak imported from Japan and an American Wagyu steak. The A5 was from Kai Wagyu, which we've used up to this point. The American was Sakura Farms, which is located right here in Ohio. We've worked with them for a number of years.
Which, if you go to our social media platforms like Instagram, go to the link tree in the bio, you can actually click on Sakura and Kai Farms right in the link tree link, and you can order some, and it'll ship right to your door.
So we cut the steaks, compared the steaks, And that video launches at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow.
And we cook them on our grill called the Brio. It's an outdoor fire pit, also serves as a grill. So it's a pretty cool unit. It's all stainless steel. Go check it out.
That airs tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And again, we really don't know on the lives if we're going to keep repeating every Friday. But
I don't
either
know.
way,
We're having so much fun. We might just keep this up, unless we're out of town or we're too busy or something like that. But
yeah,
if the audience is enjoying it, we're enjoying it, and if we have our team behind us and we're available, I'd say we'll probably do it. If you don't see us, it's just because something came up and we got busy.
And a reminder: this is the live broadcast. The recorded podcasts will go up, and you can always get those on your favorite podcast platform.
Spencer, you usually send out a notification in the morning prior to our lives, right? So you'll get that notification whether we're going to be live or not. What time do you typically send that out?
Around 8. So if you go on YouTube like 8:30 and it's not there, then we're probably not streaming that day. Unless I forgot, but usually I don't forget.
So there it is. If you go on YouTube on Friday, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and you don't see it, then it's most likely not going to happen. If you see it, then we'll be here. So this has been fun. It's a good one.
Very good show. Thanks for watching. We're the Bearded Butchers, and we will see you next time right here on our YouTube channel.
Have a great weekend. See ya.